Wake Up Columbia on Hot Talk 93.9 The Eagle.
I'm glad you could be here because there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of uncertainty. Okay, first things first, do we have an idea as to when this might be available to the general public? I know you guys are going to start, you guys started vaccinations yesterday for some of the frontline workers. We've got other local hospitals that are in the process this week of getting it done. I'm getting phone calls here at the radio station. Hey, do you know when it's going to be available to the general public? Do we have a time frame?
You know, I wish we had a more specific time frame that we could tell the community, but honestly, we're working with the state to find out when they're going to release vaccine to us. So we know that it will happen. We know that it will be as soon as we can do it, but we don't have an exact date. It will be probably late winter to early spring at the earliest that we'll be able to offer it to the general community.
So you're thinking potentially February or March, very rough estimates.
Yeah, very rough estimates. And, you know, certainly if things move quickly and the vaccine supply is strong and a lot of people take the vaccine, we'll move quicker if we can.
Right. As a doctor, what is it that you would say to the general public regarding the COVID vaccine?
Yeah, the vaccine is the real deal. It's here. And, you know, I heard your clip, and I am absolutely in agreement. A lot of people had doubts that it could move this quickly and be safe, but it did, and it is. And the vaccine is the newest and most important tool that we have to slow down the spread so we can return back to normal. So get the vaccine when you're eligible. Sign up, go to your doctor, get it.
And I think you talked about, we have talked about how quickly this did come to market. And from what I gather, there's a lot of folks that are saying, well, gosh, this did come kind of quickly. And there are some concerns there. According to National Geographic, prior to this, according to National Geographic, the mumps vaccine was the quickest that had ever been developed. That took 4 years from collecting viral samples to licensing the drug in 1967. So if I come to you, if you're my family physician and I say, listen, Dr. Morris, I'm kind of hesitant because it did happen quickly. I'm your patient. How do you answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. It happened at an unprecedented pace, and that has to do with several things. The first of which is the technology. So, you know, the 1960s were great, but we have a lot better tools, and we knew the genetic code of this virus and what it looked like and how to manufacture a vaccine very quickly. And that information was actually shared globally by scientists in a kind of unprecedented fashion. And the other is that there was a ton of money dumped into the development of this vaccine. And that's not usually the case for vaccines. Pharmaceutical companies, for better or worse, are out there to make money, and vaccines are not the way that they make a lot of money. So the research and development is typically quite slow. And in this case, there was a lot of global pressure. Countries all over the globe put a ton of money, billions of dollars, and it really did move at warp speed. But that was not with any kind of sacrifice to safety. So the parts that typically take a long time to develop went quickly, and the safety part of the study of this vaccine went at the usual pace.
Hot Talk 93.9 The Eagle. MU Healthcare Family Medicine Physician Laura Morris on the show.
Dr. Morris, this is Brad. We've asked about the general population, and we've got the frontline workers getting it now. I kind of want to ask a question in the middle. So frontline workers, vulnerable populations will get the first shots. And then who is next? What populations do you think might be next? As the father of 2 young kids, I would vote teachers, but they're learning online right now. But I would vote teachers, but where do you think that next groups of people are that could be getting it?
Yeah, so luckily we have some guidance on this. The CDC has set out a phased approach and a tiered system, and you're absolutely right. Frontline healthcare workers and long-term care facilities are certainly in that top group. And then we move down to essential workers. So all those people we've been hearing about through the pandemic who can't stay home to do their job, and the people who we all depend on. And states can define this a little bit themselves, and I'm on the same boat with you. I think teachers are absolutely essential to us returning back to normal. And then we move from essential workers into patients that have a higher risk. So certainly that's based on age, sometimes on other conditions that patients might have. And it's going to move down from there. So a young person who is very healthy might wait the longest, but there's a plan and a strategy, and that comes down to us from a national level.
And then what about, I'm guessing you have patients saying, but Dr. Morris, what about side effects? What are the side effects? How serious are they? How common are they?
Yeah, so side effects are actually pretty common with any vaccine, and they're usually very mild and transient. So sometimes there will be a local reaction, and that's what happens to your arm after the vaccine, right? Everybody has gotten a flu shot and felt kind of sore in that shoulder the next day. Maybe there's a little circle of redness right where the shot went in your skin, and that's very normal. Those are local reactions. Then we have what are called systemic reactions, and those are also fairly common and not necessarily a bad thing. They typically occur within hours to maybe a few days after getting the vaccine, and that can include things like fever, feeling fatigued, kind of under the weather, like you're coming down with something. And that's actually a good sign that your immune system has recognized the vaccine and it's kicking in. Those are pretty transient, typically resolve within 24 to 48 hours, and usually don't keep anybody from going to work or school or doing any of their daily activities. We've had a lot of questions of how serious is it and will I need to stay home from work? And unfortunately, the timing of this vaccine is right along with a pandemic, and we're all worried about symptoms like fever. So there are some guidelines about, if your symptoms are mild and you would normally work, that's fine. If you have a fever, you need to get checked out by a healthcare professional.
Good morning, Dr. Morris. This is Laura. So a couple of things. So if you contract the virus just through your everyday life and your body goes through the process and then you have built up the antibodies towards the virus, but many are saying, from what I've heard, that it only lasts, for a certain period of time. Why is the vaccine going to give our body the antibodies to protect us longer term than what your body would normally have produced if you contracted the virus?
That's a great question. We're hindered a little bit because this virus hasn't been recognized for very long, and we don't have years of study to know how long the protection from natural immunity lasts. It looks like at least 90 days, but it's questionable. And vaccines, especially this one with 2 doses, work a little differently because they can give your body that very specific piece of the virus to react to, and then they boost that reaction with the second dose of the vaccine. The reality is that the studies have not been going on for years and years. We only have a few months' time to know. And what we can tell is that within the period of time these vaccines were studied, they were 95% efficacy. That's fantastic. And even if the immunity wears off and in the future we might need another booster dose of the vaccine, it is well worth it to stop this pandemic right now.
And then another question to follow up on that is, most vaccinations or drugs go through a longer testing period, I would imagine, to see whether or not they're safe for long-term side effects. I mean, you see medications that come out often that they go through the process. Zantac is an example, an over-the-counter medication for acid reflux. And now we find out that there's long-term problems from that medication. What is it that you could possibly assure the general population that, long-term, not necessarily the side effects you're going to get right after getting the vaccination, but those long-term health implications from this vaccination as to what they may or may not be?
Yeah, that's another great question because that is a big unknown. It's a little bit of a black box. But the way that this vaccine works, similarly to other vaccines that are on the market, is that typically there are not long-term implications for your body other than immunity and protection against the virus. And the side effects and the bad things that could possibly happen quickly after a vaccine. And the study period for this vaccine of 2 months, at least 2 months after the second dose was given, is very similar and typical to other vaccines in the way that they were approved. We move forward into what's called phase 4. So the clinical trials that have concluded are not the end of studying anything. And phase 4 means that after we start giving the vaccine to patients in the community, we watch and see what can happen. And the reality is that until we have that much data and that much time, we won't know. But there's no reason to think that this vaccine will behave differently than the other vaccines that are safe for years to come.
Dr. Morris, I could chat with you all morning long. Unfortunately, we're going to have to move forward, but I do want to make sure that, because it's a very important topic, what would be the biggest, myth or rumor that you are addressing right now as a doctor?
Yeah, so I think the biggest concern that my patients have said are the things that you've already brought up, that this vaccine is going to cause some sort of unknown long-term problem, or that it's going to change their DNA. And the way the vaccine works is it doesn't even go into the nucleus of your cell. It contains a little snippet of RNA that tells your body to make proteins, and you react to the proteins. It's very simple, straightforward, and it's safe.
All right. Dr. Laura Morris. She is a family medicine physician with MU Healthcare. I know you have a lot of demands on your time right now, and I just want you to know that we truly do appreciate it, that you'd come out and hang out with us here on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm headed to go get my vaccine this morning, actually.
All right. Well, let us know. Check in with us tomorrow and let us know what you experienced.
I'm happy to come back because I want to make sure the public knows this is safe and what really is happening, and we want people to get their vaccine.
Wake Up Columbia on Hot Talk 93.9 The Eagle.